Welcome to Therapy Coaching and Dreams. I am one of your co-hosts, Dee Kelly, and I'm here with Jim Shalley.
And I'm the other co-host.
Good to be with you, Jim. We love talking about all kinds of things, but particularly exploring the inner landscape of our personality and how it results in our journey with others and affecting relationships and work and our self-awareness and health. And so we're going to jump in this particular season. We've been looking a little more closely at dreams. And I would love to start off with a dream, as we have in a few of the episodes for this season. And would also like to make the offer to those who listen that if you'd like to submit a dream, you're welcome to do so by going to inyourdreams.coach and giving some of the details of a dream, and we'll see if we can't use it in one of our episodes. Hope that happens. And I know that both of us have brought dreams from clients, and I've got one for us this morning. And hopefully it will be a springboard for us to look at some of the ways by which we work with people and work toward greater health and greater self-awareness. So anyway, let me jump right into the dream. This is a dream of a gentleman, small business owner, and is fine with letting us use the dream to do some work. And here's his description. I'm in one venue, and I'm about to make my way to another building where there will be a group of highbrow people to observe some sort of trial that I'm in. Trump is in charge of the proceeding.
Whoa, okay.
And is requiring that I wear only my underwear to the gathering. It is a way to humiliate me, and I know I have no choice, so I begin disrobing. I feel like I will be fine in my undershirt and underpants. When I arrive at the venue, I am wearing a French cuff white shirt and a watch plaid stretch pants. I profusely apologize for not taking off all of the clothing that I was required to take off. I couldn't remember how those clothes got on me. Trump was waffling on whether or not I needed to take those clothes off. And that was the end of the dream. So, for me,
he's okay. The dreamer of this is okay sharing this, huh? Okay.
Now, don't cause others to be afraid of submitting their dreams.
Yes, absolutely true.
So, one of the things that
this is kind of a presidential dream.
It is. It is.
Well, some would say he's a president.
One of the things that I think it jumps off the page to me immediately is that this is the kind of dream that gives kind of an explanation of why people just dismiss dreams. It seems nonsensical. The gentleman is not in the midst of any kind of court case. There's nothing that he is anticipating in that regard. And it would be easy to dismiss it and say, that's just my mind doing crazy things by the electrical impulses that happen in the middle of the night. But a conviction that dreams serve very specific functions, and we've talked about that in a previous episode, they rehash emotional weight of the past. They rehearse for things that we are anticipating facing in the future. They recalibrate our emotions, they resolve problems, and they help reveal some of the inner workings of our journey. So with that in mind, I look at this dream and some things then are questions that naturally flow out of that. Is there any kind of emotional weight that you've been experiencing in the last couple of days that would resemble the kind of emotion that is part of this dream? And one of those things would be that feeling exposed. And so that's one of the questions that would be appropriate to ask. But there are components of this dream that are important to look at. So we've got Trump in there. So several questions that have to do with that. We've got the person disrobing. We've got highbrow people surrounding it. We've got a trial that seems to be taking place. And this strange clothing thing that clothes are going off and they're coming back on. And anyway. So those are some of the components. Anything else that jump off the page to you before we dig a little bit deeper into this?
No, that's a big page to jump off of. So I think I'm good.
Okay.
So have you just curious, have you processed this with the client?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I try and,
Mhm.
particularly if a dream comes at the end of a session, I try and give them some questions to work with
Oh, good,
so that
okay.
they can spend some time on it.
'Cause
So,
you're much more proficient at this than I am, so
well, this is where I want to bring in your incredible proficiencies. And that is that in addition to the five functions of dreams, I often refer to the 10 principles that I use when I'm talking about dream work. And two of those principles seem real important. They are in my listing, numbers 8 and 9. And number 8 is try to learn a theory of personality and apply it to what you see in the dream and what you know about yourself. And then the ninth principle of dream work is pay attention to the shadow side. And we didn't spend much time talking about the shadow side in season one, but we did get into it a little bit when we talked about the way in which we vilify others and
Mhm.
not paying attention to how those characteristics are actually part of us, our shadow
So,
side.
yeah, I would say that dreams definitely from my experience, would express more of the dark side or the shadow side because we kinda try to stay unconscious to that stuff in some ways. And I
Yeah,
think the dreams break through that
yeah,
and help us identify it.
I agree. I will also say up front for those who are maybe more familiar with shadow work, and you don't need to be for this episode at all, but that I tend to take a much broader view of the shadow side. I tend to think of all of those things that are in the unconscious as possibly being part of the
Yeah.
shadow side of who we are.
Mhm.
Some more strict Jungian analysts would often make a distinction between the same gender as yourself that appears in the dream as being your shadow side and the opposite gender being the anima or animus.
Right.
But I'm a little bit broader in my look at the shadow side as being those things that just are struggling to get our attention out of the
Yeah, absolutely.
unconscious.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to draw you in this area. For this particular gentleman, Trump is a figure that probably
How old is he?
fits.
How old before you continue, how old is he?
Yeah, young 60s.
Okay,
Trump would probably be for him that masculine dynamic energy, the initiator
okay,
side, but it would also probably for this gentleman be the dysfunctional aspect
good.
of that. So, in that regard, this would be for him who he's far more static in his approach to life, would probably represent.
Personality-wise.
Yes.
Okay.
So this would probably represent the side of him that he doesn't know very well, very
Mhm.
reluctant to pursue, hesitant for a lot of reasons. He has a history, I don't know him real well, but he has a history of pushing against power and power
Okay.
structures.
So therefore the what's that the phrase? The high the highbrow people
Oh,
or
yeah, the
the
highbrow people that are part
yeah,
of the trial.
right.
Yeah, that are going to observe. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great connection. So let's say this, and I know this isn't a client of yours, but you're working with this person, and some of these images that I just gave you a little bit of background
Mm,
on. What else would you ask about a person who tends to be more static in their approach, has this
mhm.
a little bit of a vilification of leadership or power or authority? In terms of their own personal growth, dig a little bit into how you'd push a person to start digging into that.
Well, on the surface, I might use just a casual approach and just use the imagery of today. I would go deeper eventually, but I would say something like, "So, just using the Trump idea, is there anything good about Trump?" Because I would wanna connect. Is there anything good about leadership? Anything good about power? Anything good about that type of personality? So I would challenge him on that just to see if he could come up with anything like that. Because in my mind, not only is there, this to your point, the shadow includes a lot of things that I don't wanna bring into consciousness on some level. And it can be challenging things or it can be really productive things. And so that's why I would ask the question, so is there anything good about and see what he would do with that
I like
initially.
that. So, as we've said in times past, it's very easy to externalize. And the question, it feels to me, is an effort to move from the externalization of Trump
Abs
and then to
absolutely.
take it inward and
Because
say, Trump inside of you.
yes, I would then like I said, I think I said in a previous broadcast that one of my questions back during all this tumultuous time in our world, if you liked, let's say, Hillary Clinton, I talked about Trump. If you like Trump, I talk about Hillary Clinton. Because flexibility of thinking is so important. But to this gentleman, it's like, okay, that's all a part of himself. And so when I say to people, well, that's your inner Trump, I'm basically challenging them to own their own vitriolic, because at times they're very expressive in their disdain or dislike of the president. So from my perspective, that's the challenge. Is like, okay, you're being just like the thing that you hate, which is classic stuff. We do it all the time. So yes, I would definitely take it into a deeper level of understanding for himself, because it's not about, obviously not about Trump.
Right, right.
Mm.
And in some ways, it becomes a way by which to enter in those conversations by lowering defenses and
Yes,
saying, this isn't really
right.
about your liked or
Yes,
disliked.
or he's supposed to really like Trump, and he needs to come to grips with that because that's he's in his dreams. So come on.
Yeah. You do a great service as a coach or therapist to try and keep people on the surface, externalizing everything and
Ab-
never going deeper.
Absolutely, it's just about that. You don't like highbrow people. That's great. Anyway,
I have a delightful client, but one of the issues over and over and over again is I'll ask a question that seems to me to be so obvious about the inner workings. And I'll get a story about the external interaction with one more person that kind of fits the pattern that she's in,
it's so true.
and patiently listen to that and say, that's great. And it's another wonderful example, but let's take that inward. So with this client, the question seems to be one of the questions that seems to draw him inward is to say, So let's talk a little bit about this feeling of being exposed."
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Being in front of a
Because
crowd and
because
with under
on some level in the dream, he would like to expose the highbrow people. He would like to expose all these people. So again, there's a projection piece in that, even at some level, that he may want to expose. So, but his great fear is being exposed, and that's again classic projection as far as I expose people that uh, that I don't want to be exposed myself. I mean, I have a really great friend who challenged me last week, and she said, "You know, when you said that about me, I really felt like, you know, you're painting me in a bad light and you were exposing me." She goes, "You know, I really spend lots of time and energy not doing that to you. And you talked about me in a negative way." And I go, "Okay, you are aware that I understand that." I said, I can see how you'd see that because I was having fun and I teased you a little bit. But you do know you do that same thing. You tell everybody everything."
Mm.
But I said, You may expose me in a good light, but she goes, "Oh, I don't do that." I go, "Yeah, you kinda do." So, that's classic stuff, you know? We can see in others what we can't see in ourselves, but we're oftentimes doing the same thing. So,
Yeah, I can see how it'd be hard to have you as a friend the way you just turn the question in the other direction over and over again. Yeah, so I guess that's speaking from experience.
probably, probably so. You know, I just need to quit talking sometimes. Anyway, let's get back to the dream. I apologize. I went off on a little tangent there, but I think the idea is that, you know, how'd you process the exposure and the clothing and all that?
In this particular case, and it doesn't always turn out this way, but in this particular case, it led to a good conversation about the kinds of things that happen in his life, focusing particularly in the most recent days, but where he feels exposed. where probably a better word is to say where he feels vulnerable,
Mm,
where he feels like others are looking on and wondering about their judgment, feeling like some of the protections that give him safety are less certain than they've been in the past. And so that's been a wonderful pathway of discussion to dig a little bit deeper in that. And if for no other reason, it felt like it gave him safe space to talk about some things that are not easy to talk about with people. So
good.
it went well.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I would like to dig back a little bit more if you'd help us. One of the issues with the shadow side is that it resides in the unconscious. And how do you bring things up from the unconscious to consciousness to become more aware of them? Dreams obviously give you one of those opportunities. But I just generally speaking, when you are working with somebody that it just seems like they have some blind spots. I know you've talked numerous times about asking the kind of prodding question that allows the defenses to come down a little bit, just enough to expose that. But when, let's say in couples therapy, a spouse brings things up and a partner just doesn't see it, kind of in denial. Is there an approach that a spouse can take to try and lower that defense a little bit and dig a little bit deeper into that shadow side?
This may not directly address the question, but I think we'll get there. For me, depending on what the obviously the question is, I will often point out their attraction. So if let's say a wife points out a trait that she wishes her husband would be more sensitive to, typically the wife has that trait. And so I will say to the man, I say, "You are attracted to her, right?" Mhm. And of course, they hopefully still say yes.
Yeah.
And so you have to look at the attraction and see what part you need to integrate into your life. And so it's not as clear to see that because they live that that part out. And so we get kind of used to that as opposed to realizing you need to integrate some of those traits into yourself. So that's one of the initial ways that I'll try to do that.
I love that. So let's apply that as dream. We've got two components that seem to be for this client that instead of being attracted to, he's kind of repulsed by. So the flip side of that, he's got a power figure in the embodied by the Trump figure and
Mhm.
a brow group of people. Couldn't that same question be applied to those things that you vilify or push against? That there's something there that you need to integrate or look at because it's something that you project onto
Oh,
others.
yeah, it's creating if it's creating a good bit of negative energy and kind of an irrational response, absolutely, you have that trait inside of you, and you do not wanna see it. And so that's excuse me, that's trickier because then you have to really get into self-reflection and try to get them to identify ways in which they've expressed that. Their intolerance, their judgments, their quick dismissal of people, whatever that looks like, that would say that's a way of pointing out that same trait and say, "Oh, that's what you do in this
Mm.
situation."
So this
And that's always
particular
that's always tough because you're breaking through a denial system that they don't wanna see because they're too fragile. And again, the angrier you are about someone, the more likely it is you have that same dynamic in you. It's like the people that yell and scream about Nazis or dictatorships. Well, they're yelling and screaming, and they're expressing the same trait. Mhm.
Yeah, great point. Felt like it was a very positive sign in the dream when he was required to take off his clothing that he started disrobing and he thought to himself in the dream, I think I'll be just fine in my underwear.
Yeah,
And that there is a willingness to be exposed and see where that takes him.
yeah,
And I thought that was
absolutely.
positive.
Yeah. Where did that come in the dream? Is it towards the end or
No, that was at the very beginning, where
okay,
the requirement to go to this trial was to disrobe, and he thought he was gonna be okay with that.
yeah.
We kind of did this in season 1, but I'd like you to take me a step further. So this gentleman would fall into the static side of
And yet he's dreaming about pretty dynamic initiating people, or at least in
Exactly.
trial. Yeah.
Exactly. So there probably would be some value in identifying what he might miss out if he doesn't pay attention to that initiating energy within him.
Yeah, right, or where does he need to initiate? And the fact that he disrobed, it was the beginning of that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, no, that's another way of looking at the static personality, and they bring order to things, but where do they need to initiate? Where do they need to push themselves into more of a dynamic mode? And again, everybody, I mean, you kind of know that even a treatment for depression is movement. Mild to moderate, not severe, obviously, but mild depression is to get moving, is to make a plan and to implement it. And if you're a static personality by nature and you have some depression in you, that's really a tall task. And
Mm.
so it'd be interesting to know how many people dream dreams of doing things that are trying to push the individual to more action.
Yeah. Yeah. I also noted in the dream that there were no, as far as I could tell, and according to his description, no feminine imagery at all. And it seems like a fair
Well,
question to ask, what would the
clothing
feminine voice bring to this?
clothing can be a feminine image.
It's a great point. Great point, especially the French cuff
Yes,
and watch plaid slacks.
absolutely. Yeah, not to be too stereotypical, but yes, that would be a little bit of feminine energy.
So the fact that he shows up at the trial dressed, even though he had gone through the process of disrobing and being exposed, there is at least an interesting avenue of pursuit to say it feels like there is a feminine voice providing some direction or covering for your journey. So, what do you think that feminine voice is expressing or doing for you?
Right. And you again, this might take it a little different direction, but the feminine voice that's being expressed, the static feminine voice, is the negative side of that is bringing way too much order, too much criticism, too much judgment. That's the feminine energy in the negative form because it's relationally driven. I'm judging you. I'm judging the Trump image in the dream. I'm judging the highbrow people in the dream. That's a relational negative feminine energy. So it'd be interesting to know if most of his feminine energy had a negative tint to it.
And one of the things to pursue would be go back to family of origin issues
Yes,
and see
absolutely.
if there were some patterns that he grabbed onto that is the way that his
'Cause
family handled an emotion.
right. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm saying that the feminine energy that he's probably wanting to access is the responder, the more nurturing aspect of the feminine energy.
And this is one of the reasons why I love dreams so much is a simple dream that seems rather humorous and easy to dismiss can lead to all kinds of self-awareness questions and take you deeper and deeper.
And plus it's for the most part more non-threatening.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I find that very advantageous.
I can't blame anybody else for my dream.
Yeah. Nobody forced you to put that person in the dream. Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
So, yep,
Good place for us to step off on this episode. I hope some others might submit some dreams that we can look at
that'd be
and
great. That'd be
apply
great.
this personality approach to this and dig a little bit deeper into the shadow side of things. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, D.
That's it for this episode of Therapy, Coaching, and Dreams. If you're enjoying the podcast, we'd love for you to follow, rate, or share it with someone who might appreciate it as well. Thanks for being here, and until next time, keep growing, stay curious, and take good care of yourself.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff.